Hi everyone, I'm Hoodie Angel Brandon, and welcome to something a little different. Today we are in Genshin, and we are doing the Abyss, the Spiral Abyss, and we are attempting to get a full clear of floor 12. I've been playing for over a year now, which is kind of crazy to think, but I've always been trying to get that perfect clear, and I've come close before but never quite managed to make it. So I thought it would be fun to take this attempt that I was actually somewhat confident on being able to clear this season and get through it, and just share the results with you guys. This is post commentary, and I have edited the video down because I spent several hours on this. But my strategy for this was to take my team, you already saw them, though I am going to swap out some characters, and basically I'm going to go through the first two floors, reach floor 3, and try and get 3 stars on that floor. Then I'm going to restart and take a new team, or alter the team comp, and go through floor 2 and try and get 3 stars there, and then restart and do floor 1. So we are starting with our Ayaka freeze comp, featuring my new Kokomi, who is not fully kitted out, but we are just going through, freezing them, nothing too crazy, and hitting these Rift Hounds with the burst. And I know Chongyun is not optimal, but I like him. This is like the one excuse I have to realistically use him in any competitive sense, is just pairing him with Ayaka. He's definitely not optimal. I should build the Rosaria that I have at like C4 or C5. I don't remember what her constellation is, but she's level 20. She's benched. Just because if I build her, there's no reason to build Chongyun at all. But so we are just trying to clear these Rift Hounds. Barely missed the kill on that last one, so we had to waste a little time, but that's fine because this first run, we are not concerned with the time of this. We're just trying to get through and get to the 3rd floor with all our characters still alive, which is a lot easier now that I have Kokomi for the freeze team. She's just very tanky. And we are just going at this with our national Zhongli team. So we cleared that floor fairly simple. Floor 12, 2. This day was one of the earlier days, and I got 2 elemental mastery bonuses in a row, and I went ahead and took those. Not so helpful for the freeze team, unfortunately. Doesn't help their clear times at all. Well, I guess Chongyun with his shatter, sometimes he benefits from the EM, but it is very helpful for our second team with our national core. I'm actually very fortunate in that Benny, Xiangling, and Xingqiu are all characters that I actually like. Benny and Xingqiu especially are 2 of my favorite characters in the game. So even though other people find that team a little boring, I'm very excited because I get to use characters that I actually really enjoy. Love their personalities and everything. And Xingqiu is basically Brandon when he was a teenager. Very similar personality, though he's a little more selfless than I am. And this was my first time fighting the Golden Wolf Lord, or, well, not this time specifically. I actually streamed my first attempt. But this was my first, this Abyss rotation was my first time really having to deal with this. So I'm definitely not optimal, and I'm trying to get through this with Zhongli. I brought him as my one dedicated Geo to try and deal with this. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been my first pick. But I knew that I needed a Geo, and Zhongli felt like a decent choice. He is funny enough despite being a support. One of my stronger DPS characters, because most of the characters I like end up being more support oriented. Kind of similar to how I started out in Fae, where my favorite characters were like Corrin, who ended up playing a support role as a cheerleader. Cheer time, your favorite cheerleader Brandon here to rally the luck. Now we're trying to rally an Abyss win. So we managed to defeat the Wolf Lord, and on this first half of Chamber 3, these automatons aren't usually that bad. We can take them out fairly simple, especially with Ayaka, because the worst thing about Ayaka is when her burst misses, but these guys are pretty stationary to begin with. Freeze doesn't help much, but it does tear through them very quickly. The only problem is when you get ones that teleport backwards. That can be a massive pain. But, so, we are on the second half now, and we've got these Visheps. Similarly, I don't have a ton of experience with these guys, because I didn't have anyone who needed their mats, so I didn't fight them outside of like quests and stuff, but at least they're a little more straightforward. You don't need specific element to deal with parts of their fight. And here's our Zhongli Meteor, 53,000, which is actually a little on the lower end for him. Here's another one. Bam. But I think it missed. Oops. But, and you can see we're right there. We're almost there. We were just a few hits off, but our bursts weren't up, and we were down to 3 seconds. So I went ahead and restarted this chamber. And I'm not showing every attempt here just for the sake of time, because I had like over an hour of footage recorded, and that wasn't even all of my attempts anyways. So I've just condensed down the highlights essentially, and it's still fairly long, all these attempts, but we're just kind of going through. And also, it's worth noting, I'm still very not used to my rotations. I've never been big on rotations anyway, but especially here, since I just got Kokomi like the same week that I was doing this, I was still very much trying to force myself to learn the rotation on that, and I have a tendency to swap Kokomi into like Chongyun, which is not correct, because I want to use Chongyun to try and battery Ayaka, and then we waste the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer's buff, which is just definitely way more important on Ayaka than Chongyun. But we are trying this again with these very meaty Visheps, and we are just trying to take them down. This is another case where you can tell I really have not practiced rotations or anything. Basically, the only thing I've really practiced up to this point is Xiangling goes after Bennett, and even then, a lot of the time, I will panic, and I will see, like, oh no, Xiangling's burst isn't up, but I need to get more damage on the field, so I'll just kind of drop Bennett and then start hacking away with Xingqiu and waste Bennett's burst, and then it gets unsynced from Xiangling. Very messy. I'm definitely not a pro by any means, but just trying to slowly improve, I suppose, is just the... that's just Genshin in a nutshell, really, because you're just constantly trying to slowly improve, grind up a little bit of materials to upgrade a talent, try and grind artifacts to get like a 5% crit rate up or something like that. So slow and steady improvement is kind of just the big thing, and after a year, I guess we're finally really trying to try hard the Abyss. I have had some other attempts that I've tried, but This one I felt the most confident because I finally had a constant hydro applicator for both sides of my team, both of my teams. And there we managed to actually get it, get the 3 stars. So that was our first goal, was to get 3 stars on Chamber 3, work our way backwards. So with that, we managed to get that first part taken care of. And now we are going to jump back in. As you can see, we only managed to get 7 of 9. We missed 1 star on each of the first 2, which is actually a lot better than I expected for our first run through. But now we go through and we have to redo the first floor, get to Chamber 2, and try again. And so Chamber 2 has that Wolf Lord, which is the main thing that I want to gear this team a little bit more towards. Zhongli was okay for fighting that because he did have that Geo, but I thought we could probably optimize that a little bit more. So we're going to just take the same team in the first half. But for the second half, I decided to bring in Lady Ningguang, a character, I think she was actually my first 4-star that I pulled when I started, though I did my first pulls after like a week after I started, funny enough. But so we decided to bring her in because I thought she would be more consistent at breaking those shields on the Wolf Lord. And I also just skipped straight to Chamber 2, since that's the relevant thing, and Chamber 1 will do after Chamber 2. Here, it's just a lot of trying to get these Ruin Graders together. They're not too bad, they're very bulky, so Ayaka's Burst usually doesn't miss, though I was having a lot of times where they just kind of ran through. One would run through, use its charge attack, and they'd end up away from each other. But they're not too bad. The Wolf Lord, also not as scary as I expected. He does have one like spinning tornado move that's really awful. But overall, I didn't find him that bad in terms of actual damage. But it's very annoying because it flies around a lot, which is also part of why I thought bringing Ningguang would help. But because she could hit it in the air easier with her Jades. But it's a little inconsistent still, unfortunately. Really made me wish I had Yoimiya, who is a character I actually really like, but still haven't decided if I want to try for her on rerun. But so here are the Wolf Lord heads, and I'll admit Ningguang doesn't break them quite as fast as I was hoping. I was hoping with constant normal attacks they'd just shred through them, but she does a little bit better than Zhongli. I don't have to wait on his skill to reset or have his burst up or anything, but still not quite as consistent as I was hoping. But now we're just going to try and drop all our bursts at once. I had to reset a lot of times on this one compared to floor 3, where I only had to reset like 4 times total. This one I had to reset a lot to try and get him damaged enough while having my bursts up to actually clear it. I had a lot of ones where I was like under 10 seconds away from winning. But here, funny enough, on this rotation, we actually had a good like 30 seconds left here. You can see we managed to take it down with Lady Ningguang combined with Xingqiu's Rain Swords. Took it down, got our second round of 3 stars. Very nice. Very stressful. Again, I'm saving you guys several hours of very upset Brandon. Very stressed out Brandon. Frankly, not worth the Primo Gems. The very small 50 Primo Gem reward, but I was very insistent on trying. For our third round, we're actually on floor 1 with these tanky little baby Vishap. It's very funny that they were actually way harder than the Wolf Lord or the big Vishaps. I'm not sure how that happened, but here I ended up resetting over multiple days because I was trying to get different Abyss buffs to start with, which was especially important for this one since I only got the one card to pick, whereas the later floors you had multiple cards that you got. But you can see I had a elemental mastery. I didn't end up going with that. So here is this was like a week later, and I got when character HP is greater than 50%, attack plus 30. I was like, that's actually pretty good. I'll go with that because that will be pretty permanent because Kokomi will keep us topped off and they'll be frozen with our freeze, and they'll be frozen. And on the other side, Bennett can keep us healed up. It seems very solid on paper, and the fact it's only effective on this chamber won't really matter because we're only doing this chamber. But again, this was like a week of testing of trying to get different buffs, and most of the buffs we got weren't really even worth trying with. And I also did a lot of different team comp tests here. For one of them, I tried bringing Razor off the bench and my unbuilt Beto to try and apply Electro and try and make a very janky taser comp. That did not work at all. I gave up on that after like 2 tries. I was just like, that's not happening. But there, didn't get it. I was already like very sure looking at the timer compared to how slow I was going on that one. I was like, I'm not going to clear this one on time. So there was just so many resets on this again that like you guys just aren't seeing because even Brandon has a little mercy with how much I ramble. Here, I managed to swirl Electro with Kazuha, which didn't happen too often, but when it did, I found it pretty helpful, but just still not quite enough. I was trying to aim for 840 seconds or so. I felt like that would be comfortable, but I just never managed to really get that high. I think the best I ever managed was 830 seconds, which resulted in being 10 seconds short on the second half, which was unfortunate, but I was still trying. Even with 820, I was still like, yeah, that feels comfortable enough that maybe I could get it if I really rushed. But there you can see I did that a lot with Albedo. I'd accidentally stay on the flower. I do that a lot, unfortunately. That's the only problem with Albedo, really. And I brought Albedo on this one for that little extra damage because mine does do pretty good damage there. That's 16,000 just from dropping his flower. He has the EM share too on his burst, but I always forget that it's tied to his burst and not his regular flower. So I was trying to bring Albedo in and use EM share, and I do use his burst usually when it's up, but it wasn't really syncing with my rotations, and it just wasn't enough. So here's one day where I tried a different buff, and I got crit rate plus 8%, crit damage plus 15, which seemed really useful. Because I would say the biggest issue with my characters is just that crit. You never have enough crit, it feels like. Although I have been having ER issues with Kokomi. I just can't get enough ER on her, though I'm getting a little closer. I've not gotten a single ER sans for Tenacity of the Millilith, despite weeks of trying. But anyway, I decided to go ahead and take this crit boost and run with that. So we're just gonna go through here, and I swapped Venti in over Kazuha because I wanted to try bringing Kazuha on the second half. And Venti still gave me that VV, and he can group those little baby wolfhounds. He doesn't do as much on these big ones, but he can still hit them with his skill and get the VV shred. He can also sometimes hit him with his burst. That's very inconsistent. Venti is kind of, when he works disgustingly well, and when he doesn't work, I still think he's not as bad as everyone says. You can finagle enemies into them, but he's nowhere near as consistent, unfortunately. You don't have that same level of control as Kazuha, which is sad, but I love Venti. He's still my favorite character. And we drop that burst, managed to get that second Wolfhound to run into it, and we managed to actually land Venti's burst there as well, which was very fortunate. And you can see we're actually making pretty good time here. I'm actually freaking out a bit here, and I'm just like, drop everything on them. Chongyun, Ayaka, everyone get in here. Everyone help. I'm trying to... And that's the one thing I like about Chongyun is it makes it a little more comfortable than dashing around with Ayaka's infusion if you want to throw in some normal attacks. But there, we managed to take him down thanks to some very lucky hits on Venti getting his burst and shredding them. And now we've got these baby Vishaps, and we're just dropping this stuff. And here I tried something different. Instead of swirling Pyro, which is what I normally do with Kazuha because he loves to swirl Pyro, it's like his favorite thing. Kazuha is actually secretly a Pyro character. If you've played him, you absolutely know this. But I instead really focused on swirling Hydro first and then swapping to Bennett and Xiangling. And so having that constant Hydro aura without having to necessarily normal attack, I found very helpful. And it gave us much more consistent vaporizes. And now that I'm actually able to look at our numbers here, they're a lot better than I was expecting. I've always felt my numbers, I mean, I'm sure that my numbers are still subpar, but they're better than I thought. I usually don't really notice when I've got a bunch of numbers on screen at once. There's just too much information, too many colors going, and I'm just like, what's going on? just take them out, defeat them. I don't care about the numbers. But now I can actually see that my numbers aren't actually that terrible, I think. And Kazuha, I brought in to pull those enemies and give us that EM share and help apply that Hydro a bit more consistently. And it actually worked. We managed to get it the 3 stars, and I was so excited there that I accidentally just instantly clicked out. I was like, I'm gonna stay on the screen for a minute if I actually get it, but I was so excited I just instantly clicked out, and I had to go check. I was like, did I actually manage it? And even there I was so excited I clicked out a second time. I was just like, did I actually manage it? And there it is, 9 of 9. We actually managed to 36 star the Abyss, which was incredible. So yeah, that was just something different. Brandon giving post commentary on this. My first ever 36 star clear of the Abyss. It was very janky. We worked backwards. Definitely not optimal. Definitely room for improvement. But after a year, literally like a year of playing Genshin, I was so proud and so happy that I managed to finally get that coveted 36 star clear. Even if the teams weren't the most creative or anything, even if there was room for improvement, I was still so happy about that, and I just wanted to share that with you. So anyways, thank you guys as always so much for watching and joining me and my little angel adventure squad. Until next time, this is Hoodie Angel Brandon signing out.